Welcome back to another edition of Fly Tying with Jim Misiura. Today we're going to tie a LivelyLegz double treble. I haven't tied one of these before, and this is it definitely represents a stonefly, but we're going to give this a go. We're going to start out, I'm going to use brown thread, and this is going to be a brown one. So first thing I'm going to do is get a small base of thread at the eye of the hook. And don't make it double, just keep that single, because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put crazy legs on there. And here's the crazy legs, and this is a brown there. So I took one and I folded it in half. I'm going to leave a bit of a tag there also, but let me go back just a little bit further. I'm going to secure this with a few wraps right here. I'm going to pull that and trim that off. Now I'm going to take the front part and I'm going to pull this and wrap, because we want to get this as thin as we can, because we're going to slide that bead over, and that's a 3mm bead, and this hook is a size 12 streamer nymph hook. It's like a 3X, 4X, size 12. And I have this pulled pretty far. My hand is probably 6-7 inches away. And you can also keep your legs right on the top by pulling it also. Sometimes, especially when you get to the front, you may have to pull it towards you a little bit, because your thread likes to carry things over to the opposite side, and especially rubber likes to move to the opposite side. So we'll just go ahead and get this, and then when I get right next to the eye, I still got a couple of turns. Now when I get right next to the eye, I'm actually going to kind of break the eye, having one leg on each side. Let me pull it down with that hand. There we go. We'll get that nice and close, and that eye is actually going to help hold them apart. Remember, keep it tight. Now I can add a couple more wraps just for security, because I wasn't pulling really tight there. Now we're going to slide that bead up, and I don't like to put the thread over the bead to move it from the front to the back. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a whip finish here. I'm just going to use my fingers. Let's give it a couple, because we're going to wrap over that thread again anyway. Not a problem. Now I'm going to slide that bead up on there. And my bead, or my rubber leg, or the antenna, will be right in there. Now we could take a little bit of lead wire, or lead free wire, but first I'm going to go ahead and trim this, and I like to use the hook shank for measurements. And I'm not going to pull this hard, but I'm going to trim that just about the length of the hook shank, and that's going to go back in there. There we go. We got a nice V there. Now we're going to take our lead wire, or lead free wire, and we're going to put about 10 wraps on there. I always leave a little bit so I can grip onto it to break it off, and I keep it on the spool. And I'm going to go ahead and break that off, and I'm going to break the back off. And that whining you heard, I have a male dog, and there's a couple of dogs in heat out there. So he hasn't even been eating. It's a real pain in the neck. But we're going to reattach our thread now, and we can secure our lead wraps. Just go up and down on it once or twice. That's all you need. See, I have a little space there. It's probably better to have that lead go right up to that bead. I'm going to stop there. Now I'm going to take the remainder of that crazy leg material, and we're going to attach that there. And on this one, you don't need to worry about stretching it so much, but I'm going to stretch it anyway, because you don't have a bead to slide over this one. Just try to keep them right on top, and then you can split them. I'm going to go ahead and trim this, and I'm going to again make that about the length of the hook. And there's our V in the back. Now we're going to take dubbing, and we're going to put dubbing on here first. And the guys at LivelyLegz always put dubbing on before they put their legs on. I do it mostly put the legs on before I dub it, but for this particular one, I'm going to put dubbing on first, and then I'm going to put the legs on. But I'm going to use a darker brown dubbing, and this is just a rabbit fur dubbing. I turn that a little bit sideways so I can get my fingers in there. Even upside down helps. And this dubbing was straight out of the bag, and you can see that clump there, and there's another little clump behind my finger there. It's a good idea to throw it in your coffee grinder if you want to get it loose. We'll just work with what we have here. You put dubbing in the coffee grinder, and you can see how much, you know, it puts air in it, it fluffs it up, and it is really a lot of dubbing. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this. And now, in order to keep my legs separated, I'll just give it one figure eight, and that's going to make sure that that stays separated. Oop, I caught the point of the hook with the dubbing. And now we can make a taper with that. And we'll put a little bit more on there. Remember, I always say you could always add more. It's better to add more than to try to take it off. Especially if you get it really tight on there. Then sometimes it doesn't want to come off at all. So adding more is better. We'll go ahead and wrap those few there, that little bit. Now this is a size, like I said, this is a size 12 hook, and I'm actually going to use the LivelyLegz, and this is a 4/6/8 large and brown legs. And one of the reasons, especially if you put these legs on before you put the dubbing on, it's probably a good idea to use much larger legs. Because a lot of times, if you put the legs on the shank and then dub it, the legs almost disappear because of the amount of dubbing you're using. But again, I always go ahead and trim that front tab. And by doing that, when you're making multiple ones, you can trim it at the same spot and you'll have them all consistent. Then I usually take that tab and put that tab to the bead, and I hold the fly on the side of the hook, And like I said, that rubber rolls, so now it's right on top. And we're gonna just tie in 2 legs. So we'll put, I usually just use like 4 wraps on these rubber legs. And I'm going to trim off that last set of legs. And you can see now how large those legs are. Now I'm going to put a wing case on there, and for the wing case, I don't usually use synthetic wing cases. You can get thin skin or whatever their synthetic wing case is, but I'm using a turkey feather. And one thing about turkey feather, and depending on how old the book is or the book that you're using, it tells you to use molted turkey quill and basically the turkey tail, and you get the molting. But when you fold it over, that molting kind of just disappears. So don't get too excited about that. Now we're going to go ahead and tie that in. And I want to tie that flat. Okay, and that's, having it flat is a big reason for using the synthetic. You can really get it flat with the, you could get a nice flat with the synthetic. With the naturals, you can pile it up. I'm going to go ahead and put more dubbing on there. Then I'm going to go ahead and use that same color dubbing, and I'm going to put a little bit more on this time because I want a fatter thorax, just like the natural. Skinny at the back tail and tapering up. But again, we may have to add more. I don't like to try to use 6 or 7 inches of a dubbing noodle. Just, I got 2.5 to 3 inches right here. I'm going to give it a wrap in back of those legs, and then go ahead and continue forward. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and fold that wing case over, and I am seeing a little bit of that molted look there. Just give that like 3 wraps, put like 3 wraps in front. Then you could go ahead and trim that off. When you're trimming and you have legs, especially with the LivelyLegz or the Crazy Legs, go ahead and touch your scissors to your material up here and then slide it down. And then that way you'll know that you're only going to cut what you want to cut. You're not going to cut a leg off. And believe me, I've cut legs off. Now I'm going to go ahead and give this a whip finish. I'm going to use my whip finisher on this. And what I'm doing at the same time, you see there's a little piece of that sticking up. You can kind of clean up that area with the whip finisher at the same time. But don't go more than 3 to 6 wraps with the whip finish, because then there's a couple reasons. You don't need to have a dozen whip finish wraps on there, first of all, because it'll actually come apart if you have too much. And also if you put too much, it gets hard to pull the knot closed. The thread fights itself. Go ahead and use the poke and snip cuticle trimmer. And then I'm going to give it a nice coat of Sally Hansen's or your head cement. I'm going to put head cement on the wing case and go right to the bead. And here we have LivelyLegz Double Trouble. Hope that you'll learn something from this video. Hope that you would subscribe to my channel. Please refer me to your friends. Please visit my sponsors and let them know that I sent you. Leave comments, questions, suggestions. If you'd like to purchase this or any flies from me, go to etsy.com/shop/theflymanjim. And if you don't see it there, and this one is not on there, but I'll try to get it up there, just send me a message and tell me what you need and what size, and if you could think of it, I'll be able to come up with something for you. So thank you very much for watching my videos.